NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, beautiful spookies in Easthampton with the work of 31 artists curated together for Monster Art 5. We'll speak with the team behind the concept, Sloan, Tomlinson, and Athan Vennell, at their decked-out space in Easthampton, about the many gorgeous grotesqueries you can see at their gala opening this weekend.
We'll also hear from Bay State native and Amherst College alum Jonatha Brooke about her career and work and about the importance of the Iron Horse, to which she'll return for a show on Saturday, October 5th.
And we were not in any way the only ones watching the VP debate this week.
I know a certain congressman who may have been observing the affair.
Did you go on vacation? I forgot what happened. Where did you go last week?
No, we were doing a live show from Nomkeg, which is that quote-unquote cottage in Stockbridge. They have a big pumpkin festival, so we were just broadcasting from outside the building.
Okay, I thought you were on vacation or something.
No, but we're taking a week off in a couple weeks, so we can fully focus on getting ready for the food bank march. And the sign-ups will open up on Tuesday.
Good.
You coming?
I'll be there, unless the baby Jesus takes me. Yeah, okay.
Time for some weekly chat with our U.S. Representative, Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern, although I'll say that I got a text from a friend of mine over the weekend that had a picture of you that said McGarlicking with McGovern because you were at the North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival, I think, right?
Yeah, which was wonderful. I enjoy going to that every year and met a lot of good people.
Did you eat anything garlicky that stood out to you?
I had a garlic chocolate chip cookie.
Uh-huh.
And it was actually pretty good. And I bought a bunch of garlic to bring home, because I love garlic. And I don't think I ever appreciated the many varieties of garlic until I got redistricted out and assumed the communities where the Garlic and Arts Festival is. So,
and now, you're well protected from vampires as well. So that's great.
I am.
Being
absolutely.
October and all that.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, Congressman. Of course, the big news this week was the vice presidential debate, J.D. Vance versus your friend and family friend, Tim Walz.
Yep.
Walz has been criticized by some as being a little bit caught off guard, perhaps, for the national stage like this, maybe being a little bit too Minnesota nice when he could have been more aggressive. What do you think of the debate and specifically Walz's performance? I have a feeling I know what you think about J.D. Vance's, but we'll get to that too.
As I watched the debate, I was like screaming at the TV and saying, you should say this, you should say that, you should say all these different things that came to my mind to really stick it to J.D. Vance. But that's really not who Tim Walz is. He's not a attack dog. He is Minnesota nice. And after the debate, I was watching some of the focus groups, and it seemed the consensus was they liked him. And a lot of them said that he won the debate. He may not have been the smoothest. He, may not have gotten in the most jabs. But I think people are tired and traumatized by the Trump approach to everything, which is attack and to push out conspiracy theories and scream and yell. I think people are hoping for a time when we can actually talk to one another and not have to engage in personal attacks all the time. So I thought he did a good job.
Do you think, though, that people who have been hearing what Donald Trump has been saying now for close to 10 years, coming through a mouthpiece and a handsome younger gentleman whose eyeliner was on fleek, by the way, on Tuesday night, J.D. Vance, that this will help the message of Project 2025, will help what Donald Trump actually stands for, coming through a better spoken, more presentable vehicle like J.D. Vance?
I think that's why Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance, because he thought, he was a decent communicator and could appeal to people. But that's not what the post-debate polls are showing. The one thing I wish Tim would have pointed out was that, J.D. has written kind of the introduction to Project 2025. I mean, you can directly link him to Project 2025. I think people have heard enough and have seen enough, and they know where these candidates are coming from. They know what J.D. Vance stands for. I mean, by the way, he has openly promoted this concept of a national abortion ban. He has said that over and over and over again. I think people are pretty familiar with who he is and who Trump is. I mean, the fact that so many Republicans who disagree with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz on almost everything are coming out and endorsing them. Liz Cheney will be with her today in Wisconsin. They're doing that because they are afraid for this democracy. and I applaud their patriotism. Even I don't agree with them on a whole bunch of other stuff, but they see what's at stake. This democracy can fall. And Donald Trump, one of the things he learned from the last time around was, he's going to make sure that his vice president and all the people in key positions are going to do what he says and not put the Constitution first.
For that news, see the Jack Smith filing from yesterday and today, unsealing some of the potential criminal charges facing Donald Trump in response to the election last time. Another little critique of Tim Walz from the vice presidential debate was that he was ill-prepared for the Tiananmen Square question. He has, I guess the best way to say it, lied, fabricated, or exaggerated how closely connected he was to the Tiananmen Square protest. Was he ill-prepared in your opinion? Shouldn't he have had a stock answer? Shouldn't he have been training on knowing that he was going to get asked a question like this? And in an era of post-truth where people are easily saying this is verifiably false and yet continuing to lie on top of it, should he have had a more honest answer to that question?
I mean, it was a garbled answer. Let's be honest. I think it ended with him saying, I'm a knucklehead. But I think the way he should have answered it was, I misspoke. But my commitment to human rights is real. Yeah, I mean, he could have had a tighter answer. Speaking
with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern, got a couple listener questions to get to in just a little bit. Yeah. But there is a lot of news still, however, not as much as I think perhaps there should be, about the situation that is escalating in the Middle East. The U.S. elections have dominated most of the headlines. Meanwhile, we appear to be on the cusp of a global conflict now with Hezbollah and Israel and Iran getting into the mix. What, if anything, is Congress doing or should Congress be doing right now to avoid a full-scale war in the Middle East that would no doubt draw the U.S. and other global partners into the fray?
Well, Congress isn't doing a damn thing. Congress is on break. Really, the administration, the Biden administration, in my opinion, needs to be more forceful in insisting on an immediate ceasefire. This brutal cycle of illegal reprisal attacks has to come to an end. I mean, what Iran's firing 180, 200 ballistic missiles at Israel is horrible. I mean, luckily nobody was killed except one Palestinian was killed in the West Bank. But, the trauma that people in Israel must be going through, I mean, just knowing that this is all happening. And it is horrific. Netanyahu's bombardment in Lebanon, where he's going after Hezbollah leaders, who happen to be in buildings with lots of civilians, that he's bombing these buildings and countless civilians are being killed. And it's horrible what's happening in Gaza. I mean, tens of thousands of people dead. I'm worried about this spiraling out of control and about the U.S. getting sucked directly into this conflict. I'm really worried about that. I really think this is a moment for restraint. There should be a ceasefire. And this is a time for diplomacy. And we need to put up front a commitment to resolve the Palestinian question, because that is really, kind of the basis for so much of the resentments that you see springing up all over the Middle East. I've called the administration a couple of times this last week, just making my suggestion that, again, they need to double down on this demand. They should be demanding an immediate ceasefire by everybody.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, earlier this week, Congressman, your Congress narrowly avoided a shutdown, another government shutdown. A listener named John B., who's from South Hadley, not technically your district, says the prospect of facing another shutdown as a federal employee is challenging to him. He said he had to once again look at his finances and map out and potentially tap into savings to cover his bills, all while still expecting to do his job, having been deemed essential, necessary, whatever the term being used to justify making him work without timely or predictable compensation, he says. He's come to the conclusion that the reason the shutdown has become a go-to tactic is while the government is shut down, so many employees have been deemed essential or necessary that most people don't notice an impact on their lives, but it feels like the average federal employee, who is already being vilified by a political party at times, are the ones who suffer with the lack of this timely income. He's wondering if the Democrats win both houses of Congress and the presidency, could a bill be passed with strict definitions limiting who is essential, who must continue to work during a shutdown?
Yeah, I suppose there could be. I haven't really thought about that. So that's an interesting question. Let's see how the election turns out and see whether or not that makes sense. But look, I think people ought to be outraged that our legislative bodies cannot guarantee that they won't shut the lights off. And again, at the end of the day, we ought to be able to put a bill on the floor that funds the government so that people don't have to worry about this. This is embarrassing. If the government shuts down and then people go without pay, but they're expected to show up to work, that's an unbelievable hardship on people. And by the way, the government we have this short-term continuing resolution keeps government open until December 20th. Mm-hmm. So if it shuts down, Merry Christmas, right? I mean, it's absurd, but I'll take that into consideration because I do think we need to make it even more difficult and more unattractive for anybody, no matter who's in charge, to look at the prospect of shutting down the government as something that is acceptable.
Another listener question for you, Congressman McGovern, from Judy Dowd, who is the Western Area Mass Dietetic Association Public Policy Chair. She says the dietary guidelines for Americans, the DGAs, are formulated based on research and updated every 5 years. Project 2025 recommends eliminating these dietary guidelines for Americans and says ridiculous things, in her opinion, like there is no shortage of private sector dietary advice for the public, and nutrition and dietary choices are best left to individuals to address their personal needs. She wants you to comment, should the dietary guidelines be taken out from a government perspective? Should what goes on in your refrigerator be left between you and your refrigerator and your doctor, or should the government be involved?
Well, I think Project 2025 is a disaster, and that recommendation is just plain stupid. I mean, people can eat whatever they want to eat. I mean, people ignore dietary guidelines all the time.
I know I do.
So it should be there to make it easy for people to understand how to live a healthier life. To all these fiscal conservatives out there, you should want the government to be more aggressive, if you will, or more forthcoming with things like dietary guidelines, because if we keep our population healthy and well, by the way, that saves a boatload of money in avoidable health care costs. That's where you want to go to save money. That's where you think we can eliminate programs and things that actually promote sound science and give people the truth about what they purchase at the supermarket. Because I can guarantee you this, the big food corporations, they're going to tell you things are healthy, even if they're totally unhealthy. They're interested in making profits. They're not interested in keeping you well. I think the dietary guidelines are important to, not only for people to be able to judge what is a nutritious diet, but they're also used in figuring out what we put in our meals for our kids, and they're guidance for doctors and nurses. And so I'm opposed to that. But I'm opposed to almost everything in Project 2025, which is a total disaster. It is a shocking document.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, who votes in the city of Worcester, Massachusetts, and will be voting in November on things that you could be voting on the Massachusetts ballot. Last week, you endorsed a bill that would end MCAS, the controversial high-stakes test. There is a ballot question number 2. Tell us why you endorsed this question that would stop the state's MCAS test from being a high school graduation requirement.
I mean, they could still administer the test, but what I'm advocating is they no longer be a requirement for people to graduate. Look, my 2 sisters are school teachers, and, the anxiety that these tests produce among students and teachers, by the way, is enormous. And oftentimes they find themselves teaching to the tests, not necessarily teaching in a way where kids are learning what they should be learning. Look, you can keep the test, and they could be an indicator as to whether or not things are being communicated adequately. But I don't think they should be mandated as a requirement to graduate. I'd still be in school, I think, if I had to pass an MCAS. Some people just don't do well on standardized tests. And people have all kinds of learning challenges that make it more complicated. I don't think it's necessary.
Do you think that it will change if this is not a high-stakes test anymore? The quality of education, city to city in Massachusetts? One of the critiques is that there wouldn't be one standard for a high school diploma from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts if each district is kind of in control in their own way. Should there be some sort of stakes or assessment, or maybe even potential, I don't want to call it punishment, but a reconfiguring of a school district if the students there aren't able to pass the MCAS at a level that they might have been able to while it was still a high-stakes test?
You can still, administer the test, and you can still learn from the data. And if everybody's failing it, then obviously you need to reassess the curriculum and how things are being taught. Tests can be used to see where the trends are and to see whether things are actually, for the vast majority of students, whether or not the lessons are being learned. But I am not convinced that one glove fits all is the way we ought to do this. I don't believe that the quality of education is about one test. I just don't. As somebody who is a rotten standardized test taker, I think I'd be out of my mind if I had to worry about this as a precondition to graduate. And I know a lot of students do, and a lot of parents do. And and a lot of teachers do. And our school districts are very diverse, and kids learn things differently. Let's have standards, but I don't think a standard is one test.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, before we let you go, we've talked a lot about farms over the course of our conversations. We talked a lot about food, a lot about hunger, about healthy, nutritious food. You brought the mayor of Boston to Hadley to a farm this week. Talk about what went on with Boston Mayor Michelle Wu here in the 413.
Yeah, no, so the Boston Public School system is actually doing something I want all schools to do, and that is they're sourcing, a chunk of the food for their kids from local farms. And so, we went out to the Sabowski Farm in Hadley, and the mayor got to see firsthand, where the squash is coming from and where, the other vegetables that are being used in school meals is coming from. And also to see that by doing that, you're supporting a local farm. And we need to do more of that. We need our school districts and our cities and our towns to be more creative and understanding the importance of not only fresh fruits and vegetables, but also getting them locally. There's less chemicals. It's better for the environment, less cost in transportation, getting stuff from Hadley versus getting it from halfway across the country or from, another country for that matter. We harvested a few sweet potatoes, but I think she was really, really impressed, and it's a story she can tell to the students. I'm hoping more communities will do this. But she was very impressed, and I want to thank Joe for welcoming us to his farm. He was incredible. Yeah, it was a great day. I really enjoyed it, and she did too.
Well, if you want to connect some more dots about the food system in our country and in our Commonwealth and in our Western Massachusetts, and want to see how hunger has an impact and how hunger can be impacted by the work of these farmers and connecting these dots, as I mentioned before, this coming Tuesday, the March for the Food Bank signups will be open. You can join me, you can join Congressman Jim McGovern and a host of other folks who will walk some or all of this 43-mile jaunt between Springfield and Greenfield over the Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, November 25th and 26th. Those signups will start on Tuesday. If you've got a question for the congressman that you want to ask him on this segment, you can always send it to us, thefab413@nepm.org. Thanks as always, Congressman.
Yeah, I'll just say, and if you march with us, you can talk to me for 43 miles. So
I know a lot of people. That's a great way to lobby your congressman. You don't walk all that fast, so as long as you have a decent pace, the congressman can't escape you during that time. So
right. Anyway, I look forward to it. But anyway, great to be with you.
Harangue your congressman for good. Later in the show, folk and rock artist Jonatha Brooke on her return to the Iron Horse.
But first, the many monstrous things beneath Eastworks at Monster Art 5, which opens this weekend.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP. NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com.
Monsters doesn't mean a scary thing, it just means an imaginary creature. And what's great about imaginary creatures is that every single culture on the planet, doesn't matter what culture you're from, everyone has created imaginary creatures. Everyone has imaginary creatures. And that's what we kind of like to sort of push with this show. It's like, what is your interpretation of the creatures that live in your imagination, or your culture's imagination, or just imagination of the humanity in general?
You are the artists behind Monster Art 5.
Athan, Vennell.
Sloan, Tomlinson.
What is the Monster Art project here at Eastworks in Easthampton?
We are really excited to be back in Eastworks. We started here in 2015. That was our first Monster Arts project in the map space that Easthampton City Arts had upstairs. And then we were so successful, we did a second one, and then we did a third one, and then we took a year break because we realized how much work it was, and we did a fourth one, but our fourth one was in 2019, and then we all know what happened in 2020.
What happened?
Hey, what happened?
So we actually have been 5 years in the making for this one.
But we had the theme for this one picked in 2019. So we were all ready to go and started gathering things. And a lot of the detritus and fake plants that are in here are actually from the Brooks Brothers, when they went out of business, their warehouse in Enfield, Connecticut was full of display stuff. And so that's where actually I bought most of it, the January of 2020.
What is this year's theme?
Secret Garden. The first one didn't have a theme. It was really just about sort of like, Sloan's always had a penchant for making monsters and loving monsters, and he sort of brought me into that realm, and I was like, let's just do this little art show, because, you know, ECA had the map space, so all you had to do is just apply, and you got the space for the month. And then people really liked it, and then we expanded it, and then it was sort of like the professor that would travel the world collecting monsters and knew all about monsters, and we sort of built on that idea and then brought it to other themes. Plus also, we want to bring out the idea that monsters aren't just scary things. They can be fun and friendly and cute. And we never really wanted a show that was just art on the walls, art on pedestals. We really liked the idea of more of an experience.
How does the size of this space compare to what you had in this building like the first year or even in previous years?
It's a lot bigger. Yeah. So this is a 70 by 90 foot space. And the space, but previously the old map space upstairs is, maybe a quarter of that. But we thankfully have 30 artists this year, actually 31, which is more than we've ever had before. We also, built this whole greenhouse space inside of here to kind of like enclose the space, kind of make it more interesting as people walk through and move through it.
And the greenhouse in the middle of it, the faux greenhouse, you can see the plants coming through it. Yeah. It's got all these cool silhouettes and lights behind it, and has a sign that says "Danger, greenhouse closed due to contamination." So that's a monster of our own making.
And we wanted to do that because we wanted to close off the space so it felt a little less big, but also it helps guide people through the gallery space.
Eastworks was really lovely because we met with them at the beginning of the year, and we were like, okay, if you're ready, we're ready, let's go. And Eastworks just were like, they stepped up and was like, here, you can have this space for the amount of time you need to do this. So they are being so incredibly generous with this. It's not even funny.
The amount of time that the public can come see begins this Saturday with a gala reception here for Monster Arts Project 5. Take us to look at some of the art. You, Sloan, are a photographer, so we're walking by one of your photographs right here.
Yeah, this is actually on the posters and the flyers. I wanted to kind of create this sort of scene of like natural world, but also kind of otherworldly creature. And so my self-portrait work always kind of has sort of centered on that. And then in 2021, I actually started working on photographing wasps as sort of the other thing that I love is entomology. And so there's always been a blend of science and art with Monster Arts Project, because there is that kind of blend that happens with the scientific world and the imaginary world. And that's why I have photos also of my wasps that are kind of monstrous looking in themselves.
Can we go look at that wasp over there that you were showing us before? Actually,
I can show you that. We have a lot of display in here, and that's what people will notice when they come here, is that it isn't just art on the wall. There's a whole experience.
So there's a wasp's nest inside a very gothic looking bird cage, and on top of it is a dead wasp.
It is, yes, and it's actually one of the Asian giant hornets that terrified the entire United States, even though they were in a tiny pocket of the Pacific Northwest.
It is a hornet that is like 2 inches long, so I feel like people were justified.
I feel like I need to get an EpiPen just looking at it.
I mean, as a wasp researcher, I think it's beautiful, and I'm happy that it's here.
Things can be both beautiful and terrifying.
It's true, yeah. And that's the joy about monsters. Monsters can be both beautiful and terrifying.
Exactly.
You were saying some people eat these and then turn them into liquor?
That's true, yeah. And there's cultures in Asia that actually make liquor out of the adults and then eat the larvae of them. And they'll actually harvest nests, which could be like, the nest can have over like 6,000 workers, and they have to wear giant rubber suits to get in them because they'll just be completely attacked. And you can die from stings from them, because they'll sting you that many times. Even if you're not allergic, you could die.
Because their stingers don't fall off, they just keep going.
Yeah, those larvae better taste real good if I'm going to put my life on the line to go harvest. Let's look at some more art with Sloan Tomlinson and Athan Vennell, who are behind the Monster Art Project 5 here in Eastworks in Easthampton.
You mentioned that there's 31 artists. How did you curate and collect the artists that are part of the show?
It started off as actually just friends and people we knew. And then I think maybe the second one, we actually did put out a call to artists and got quite a few people. So now most of the artists that are here have been showing the whole time. And so, but each one, we got a couple new artists. So I think we have like 4 or 5 new artists this time. But yeah, but we'd like to create a family. They bring, the energy and the inspiration to it.
And a lot of times what we'll do also is if we're at gallery shows or we're at craft fairs and things like that, and we see art that we like, that we feel could fit in a Monster Arts project, we'll take the person's card, we'll contact them. That's how we found a lot of
Which
people.
is exactly how we found these giant jack-o'-lanterns that are actually made from paper mache.
They are unbelievably. I wish you could see them, radio listeners.
I mean, you can if you come to the
That's right, Saturday night.
But they feel like they're made of ceramics, but they're actually paper mache. I'm not really sure how she does it, but we
eyes are amazing.
Yeah, they look like real eyes on some of these.
Yeah. And they all come with a light that you can press, and so there's like 3 or 4 different colors. So you can have it white, red, green, blue. They're really, really cool.
What's the name of this artist?
Tina Hickey is her name.
Where's she from?
She's from
The Bernardston area. We found her at the Bernardston Scarecrow in the Park last year. And completely, I was just floored. But, I wasn't going there to shop. I was going there to look at scarecrows. And, they're a wonderful price for what they are, but at a craft show, they were a little more expensive. And I was like, screw it, I'm going back. I'm getting one. And we went back, and all of them were sold. Wow. Every single one of them. So I was like, well, the only way I'm going to get one is if she goes to my show.
She's got a lot of her pumpkins.
She has like 22 of them. She's like, how many do you want? And we were like 5, 7, maybe 10. And then she comes back to us a few weeks later. She's like, well, I have 14. And then like a few weeks later, she's like, is 22 too much?
Oh, look at this. What are you putting in this little cabinet here, Sloan?
Completing this this display, this is actually one of the artists that has been in the show since the very, very beginning. Her name's Marianne Benz, and she loves the show so much that she always outdoes herself and creates these amazing sculptures out of stoneware and earthenware that have this very unique feel to them. These are all her pieces right here, including this guy here with a little flickering light. Actually, the orchid head actually was part of a piece that was in the very first Monster Arts Project show that unfortunately broke. So she recycled the head and turned it into this creature sitting on the bed there.
Yeah, and there's a monster under the bed, which is really fun. What looks like
the monster under the bed is shears.
Pruning shears.
Pruning shears because it's a plant. I actually hadn't even noticed that yet.
What would a plant-headed person fear under their bed? A monster made out of shears.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But a lot of people would recognize Marianne Benz's work too. She's like, if you know her work, you see something and you know she did it.
Is she based here too, or
in Holyoke? Yeah, everyone. I think almost everyone is local.
This looks like a wild, like heavy metal album art monster poster.
Well, it is. That's the guy who started RPM Fest.
John Gallo is his name. Yeah. He's the co-founder of RPM Fest, and this is one of his pieces, and you can definitely see that kind of influence in his work.
Yeah, RPM is the heavy music campout that we had on this past summer.
It was a pile of fun. I got to see Castle Rat dress up in armor and things and spit blood on stage.
That sounds like a good Saturday.
Right?
Yeah, they look like Audrey too from Little Shop of Horrors. Feed me! We talked to him too, the puppeteer behind Audrey too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Brian Henson.
That's
awesome. This is Jen Gazubska. She has Zugu is the name of her company. She makes these really wonderful plush creatures. She does a lot of like faux taxidermy heads that are really adorable, like narwhals and things like that.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
But look at this.
I recognize this artist, and I cannot remember their name.
Adam McCulley.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's been a part of our show separate times, but he is in the show again, and we're really happy to have him with these tape head creatures that he made.
Yeah, it's like a reel-to-reel tape-headed monster with these VHS arms and legs and torso with things written on it, like Goonies and Rad and The Fly and all the things, Dracula, all the things that I watched when I had VHS.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Gorillas in the Mist.
I also had that, strangely enough. And I think it was a dubbed copy just like that with Gorillas in the Mist written on it. God, I haven't.
These things is not like the others.
If I see or hear or smell you anywhere near my gorillas, you'll be writing with your other hand, and I'll have a new ashtray.
More with Athan Vennell and Sloan Tomlinson about Monster Art 5 opening this weekend, including the very real inspiration for some of the work on display, an etymological nightmare about wasps.
And we'll hear from the multi-platform, multi-talented Jonatha Brooke, who comes back to one of the stages that started her career this weekend in Northampton.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
friends with the monster.
Let's look at some more art with Sloan Tomlinson and Athan Vennell, who are behind the Monster Art Project 5 here in Eastworks in Easthampton, and begins this Saturday, but goes through when?
November 3rd, ending with Open Studios, Eastworks Open Studios, which is November 2nd and 3rd, 10 to 5. And that's when the whole building is open to all the artists that are in here, and you can come see all the cool art and stuff that people make here in the building.
What else do you want to show us?
This little guy is really adorable.
Oh, it's like a cute little fuzzy
caterpillar-y thing.
This is a local artist, Tracy Kachansky. She makes these really wonderful sort of imaginary creatures that have this sort of fun feel to them, but they're also just really beautifully done. And she uses things like polymer clay and fake fur and other things to kind of create these little creatures. There's a big three-headed bird creature that's across there that you can see sitting on its perch.
Oh my God, it's like an incredible three-headed dragon-looking thing.
Yeah, most of our artists do make new things for the show specifically. So there's a lot of art that's actually like specifically made for this show. And then some people just have art that fits the theme that they've had already. And
yeah, like the metal sculptures by Camille Peters. Those are definitely, of the ilk. We've known him for years and just found out that he's actually his studio is now our neighbor in Hatfield. But his stuff, we've always just really liked it and wanted to use it, but never really thought of how. And we just approached him and he figured out what pieces that he had would be able to work in it.
Yeah, he creates really these beautiful steel sculptures that are all based on sort of African mythology, and there's those masks on the wall over there. They're all steel and found objects that he welds together and creates these beautiful sculptures.
Yeah. It feels like doing something greenhouse themed would be harder than some of your other themes, just because like working with plants, fake and real, that's a lot.
When we first saw the space, we actually had a very different idea of how we were going to block things off. And it was going to be more of like a center alleyway into the back. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what it was. I think maybe I was driving through Smith College one day, and all of a sudden it was like greenhouse, Victorian greenhouse. And it was like, and that's sort of something that we could use to build in the center of the space to then create less space for us to have to use. Yeah. And it also makes it a little bit more intimate too.
And we didn't want to overload it with too much display because the whole focus is, of course, the people's art. So we want people to come in and enjoy the art, but they also want to feel like there is that hint of another world that you're entering. I mean, that's been our point since the very beginning, is we want people to come in and be like, oh my God, I'm in another place. Like, they don't want them to come in and just be like, oh, it's a gallery, there's some art on the walls. Yeah. They want to just be like, oh wow, this is really fun to be inside of.
Because we also want to be opening it up to the people that can't afford to buy art, but they can still feel it and experience it and sort of like live in it for a little bit too. Which is then also why we have a retail area too. So the artists that we have bring in other things that they have there at much lower price points. So that if you can't afford the $600 piece of art that's on the wall, you can still actually walk away with something of that artist and feel like you like participated.
Really want to find out about these things coming out of the walls. Like, I love this. This is so fun from every angle that you look at it.
Yeah. They look like dead flowers kind of growing out, and sticks and acorns and things kind of growing out of different frames.
It looks like Shub-Niggurath is coming to get you.
Yeah, or somebody shot like 1,000 arrows into one big target.
These are by Todd Lynch. We actually ran into him at Nasami Farms when we were buying plants.
A native plant organization?
Plant native, as an entomologist, plant native.
Save all the bees.
And the wasps.
And some of the flies.
Fine.
Yeah, but he does these, he's actually, I think, majored in architecture.
Landscape architecture.
Landscape architecture. Yeah. And so he does these very sort of interesting pieces that kind of blend industrial things with more natural things. So he's using like insulation foam with actual natural plants and materials and stuff, which I think is a very interesting sort of juxtaposition. And they're very beautiful. I mean, obviously they're not monsters per se, but they are secret garden-y, they're imagination, they're, creating another.
And they're a little bit macabre, so they're monstrous.
Yeah.
They give that a feel.
There's definitely like monstrous things in nature too. Oh, yeah. So like this absolutely fits.
That's actually a really good point. That's why I wanted to sort of work on the wasp photos I've been doing, because there's a lot of monstrousness in the insect world, especially with parasitoid wasps. So I've started taking these portraits, I would call them, of wasps. So they're not really necessarily like scientific photos. They're kind of like, I can show you a couple of them.
Yeah, they're beautifully framed.
So I did decide to have a juxtaposition of the pure white background, the wasps, and these ornate gilded frames. And speaking of monstrous, a lot of people will probably find this one monstrous. That's a monarch pupa, and all those little wasps on it all came out of the single pupa after eating the insides of it as larvae.
These are amazing.
And then that one, the little guy at the tip of, that's actually how big he is.
And it's at the end of a sharpened pencil, is that what that is?
It is, yes.
So it's extraordinarily
amazing.
small.
And then the bright blue one.
Yeah, what are those?
That's a cuckoo wasp, and one of their defense mechanisms, since they can't sting, is to roll themselves into a cute little ball.
Oh, they try to kill you with cuteness?
But I am a warrior cursed with a feeble attack.
Then you must make your curse your gift.
They're like, nope, not here. Don't look.
And that's their real color? That sort of iridescent blue kind of
yeah.
thing? That's crazy.
Yeah, they're really.
I love that.
They're really quite beautiful. It's one of the things since I've been obsessed with wasps since I was a child, I wanted to start creating photos that sort of made them look beautiful because people dislike
not
wasps.
so scary.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to do them in this very pure white backgrounds because I wanted people to focus on the beautifulness of these insects instead of just being like, ew, scary, oh, it's a wasp, I hate them. I wanted to show how beautiful they can be, even in their scary moments, like coming out of a monarch pupa.
Where are you getting wasps?
From our backyard. We live in Hatfield, so we have 30 acres of wetland meadow behind our house, so most of the wasps I find are from our backyard.
The scorpion wasp included?
That one's actually from New Hampshire, but we have them here too. That's called a pelisanid wasp, and that is a female that she uses her long sort of abdomen like that to dig underground and lay her eggs on beetle larvae, and then her babies eat the beetle babies.
They drink the beetle juice.
Yeah. Beetlejuice. Yeah, so parasitoid wasps are fascinating because their science says that there's as many as 800,000 to 3 million species on the planet. We'd only know of maybe an 18th of those because so many of them are as small as that one with the pencil, which include the smallest living insects we know of. There's an insect that flies that's smaller than some species of bacteria.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Didn't you discover, isn't there a discovery that you made of that they didn't know existed here?
Sloan, did you discover a wasp?
Well, there's a possibility that there's a genus of wasp that has never been recorded in North America, and I might have found the first one. But we're still waiting to hear from the Smithsonian, who I'm working with. So.
Wow, congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We'll see.
It's pretty cool.
Did you get to name it after yourself?
You can't legally name things after yourself, but you shouldn't. It's kind of an unwritten rule.
Yeah.
If you name an animal or a plant, you're not supposed to name it after yourself.
You can name it Athan.
Yeah. But yeah, so I decided to put some of these in the show because they definitely are not monsters per se, but they're living monsters that we just, don't even see often very often.
They're found in a garden.
Totally.
Super influential on the way that you can make things more monstrous, right?
Yeah.
Elongate a thorax, add extra hinges in ways that don't seem normal.
Insects are the original monsters. I mean, some of the life stories of insects are pretty monstrous, more scary than any of our science fiction that we humans come up with.
Yeah.
There's mind control that happens. So there's parasitoid wasps that lay their eggs into caterpillars, and then they come out of the caterpillar and spin their cocoons, and then the caterpillar guards the cocoons like a zombie and hugs the cocoons. And if anything comes near it, the caterpillar will swipe and bite at it and protect the baby wasps as they're pupating, and then die.
I love it.
I mean, this is in addition to the fact that caterpillars turn into goo before they turn into butterflies.
Yes.
No one knows what happens with the goo. It just somehow becomes a butterfly.
Well, it's a little more complicated, but we won't get into that. As an entomologist, I could go on, but I won't. But wasps do that too. I mean, any insect that transforms from larva to adult, everyone talks about oh my God, it's so amazing how a caterpillar transforms into a beautiful butterfly. Well, if you see wasp larvae, they're literally just sort of a blob, and then they turn into these beautiful insects.
Yeah.
Which honestly is more amazing than a pretty caterpillar turning into a pretty butterfly.
Yeah. Eric Carl.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
It really should be the hungry, hungry wasp.
Caterpillars are only so hungry.
There's actually a wasp that makes caterpillars eat more than they should, so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they eventually kill it.
Wow, these things are crazy.
That's why I love them.
Wait, it's like caterpillar foie gras.
Basically, yeah.
It's like that thing from Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
Keep feeding you and feeding you.
And feeding you, and feeding you, and feeding you.
And the caterpillar's like, I don't know why I'm still hungry. And then, now I'm dead, and I'm just covered in wasps.
Tell us, Athan, a little bit about what's going to happen at the opening.
So the opening, we like to make those a festivus. So this year we have Local Burger is donating a lot of food. Crooked Sticks Pops will be here with an offer. The first 50 people get a free popsicle. We're going to have a caricature artist that...
Alexander Hughes.
Yeah, who is, you don't have to pay for. We're going to have a tarot reader that's by donation.
Gazzaro.
Yeah, it was like another name that you'll know. I'm forgetting something else.
Abandoned Building Brewery.
Abandoned Building Brewery. We'll be doing Pouring, and a couple performers from Show Circus Studios.
Pulling together all the goodness in all of the mill buildings on Pleasant Street.
We try to keep even the people that are donating to it in Easthampton, so that it's really an Easthampton event.
Thanks to Athan and Sloan. In addition to this Saturday's gala, which has an after party at the Jupiter Club, there'll also be drag storytime at Monster Art 5 next weekend with Noelle Diamond starting at 2 p.m., as well as 2 terrarium building workshops. Find more info on all the extra offerings on their Facebook page.
Time to hang out with someone whose storied career is very tied to the Valley, singer-songwriter Jonatha Brooke.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Hey, look, I did a pun.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Well, just like clockwork.
I'm nothing if not punctual, Jonatha Brooke.
On time is almost late in my business.
I hear you.
Well, that's what I tell my guitar player when he's late.
I'm the kind of person that will get there 10 minutes early, but then drive 200 yards away and do something in my car and then pull in right at the exact right time.
Hello, it's me, the late guitar player.
Oh my God, I'm that person too.
Nope, I'm the late guitar player. It's me. That's okay.
It's interesting. Now we're going to have therapy session in front of Jonatha Brooke, Khalees. But it's always
that's part of my job.
It's good to understand that people have different perspectives of time, and time is just a human construct, and the universe is so vast that what is 1 minute, Nothing.
Partially a cultural thing, too. I saw somebody's Instagram about this with somebody who was a black woman and was talking to white people about, what certain phrases meant, and then, talking to a black person at the end of it. And she's like, "What? You just got a text that says, I'm 15 minutes away. Where is that person?"
I love it.
And I'm like, I know what the answer to this is.
And what is it? Still
right.
home.
It's you ain't left your house.
Yeah, right. For your edification, Jonatha, Khalees is black and I'm white. So we're the ebony and ivory of our radio show hosts today.
Ebony and ivory of our radio
Awesome.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's hard to sum up the 35 years of Jonatha Brooke's musical career, but here's our attempt. She's an American folk rock singer-songwriter and guitarist from Massachusetts who got her start writing music at Amherst College.
After forming the band The Story with fellow alum Jennifer Kimball, she went solo in the early 90s and has been writing music for film, television, and stage as well as for her 11 albums, 3 live albums, and several compilations ever since. She's known for her innovative harmonies, creative lyrics that highlight a wealth of modern issues, and pure tone that is a perfect match for her understated musical arrangements.
Jonatha Brooke returns to the Valley this Saturday, October 5th, for a show at the newly renovated Iron Horse, and she joins us now. Thank you so much for, A, being our therapist, Jonatha Brooke, and B, coming back to play your wonderful music here in the Valley.
Well, that's why I get the big bucks. But also, I sound so fancy from what you've said. I'm feeling very, very good about myself.
They are all things that you have done. And I want to emphasize that, understated does not mean uninteresting. Learning your songs is hard. I've done a couple. I love when you find songs that are way more challenging than when you initially listen to them. And that's pretty much always been your work.
That's kind of my specialty. Actually, I was joking on stage last night because I've been teaching songwriting workshops for a few years now, and people always come and they're really, really upset because it's well, is it really 3 chords in the truth? And I'm like, no, it's as many chords as possible, and you must lie because the truth is just sometimes so boring.
Yes. And sometimes those 3 chords are also boring, and you want to be entertained too when you play.
But sometimes those 3 chords are simple and beautiful.
That's true.
I was talking about Taylor Swift too, and she's just a master of restraint, simplicity, and 3 chords, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
Jonatha Brooke, we mentioned that you got your start writing music at Amherst College. Tell us about your relationship to Massachusetts and Western Mass and how it informed your early career.
Well, I grew up in Boston, and I went to school in Amherst, and my sophomore year I took a composition course, and it exploded my head wide open, and I all of a sudden realized that I was a songwriter. And I was an English major, I was a dancer, but something about the combination of lyrics and complicated chord structures just really changed my life. And so from then I started writing songs and performing in the area. And so the Iron Horse, actually where I'm playing on Saturday, was my very, very first gig. My colleague and I, Jennifer, in my band The Story, my first band, that was our first gig, was at the Iron Horse. It was like an open mic night, and we tried our brand new songs while we were still in college. The Iron Horse, boy. And we've come a long way since then.
Khalees and I just hosted an open mic night there last week, so they've got that back up and running again, which who knows who the next Jonatha Brooke will see come through that open mic.
And oh my gosh, are you going to be
great.
psyched about the changes?
Yeah, you're going to be excited.
The whole building. It's amazing. It looks so good right now.
I am so happy somebody rescued that place, because it is the most, like, it is like a top 10 stage to perform on. There's just nothing warmer than that room and the people in that room and the sound of that stage and the feeling there. And it was really sad the last couple times to see the disrepair and yuckiness. So I'm so excited to be back.
I wanted to ask you about composition, because it's a thing that like is intrinsic to writing music, but like you've written in a duo and with several bands and then by yourself and then a stage play. Were any of these more easy to write for than the other? And if you want to exclude the stage play because that's based around the end of your mother's life and kind of a different process, then you can. But I'm just curious, which seems easiest for you to let out?
I think often when I have an assignment, like one of my biggest songs has been a song I wrote for Disney for a movie called Peter Pan 2, Return to Neverland, a song called I'll Try. And that was just it's been a massive song for me. And it was like a 20-minute gift because the assignment was so clear. You have like 2.5 minutes to detail the emotional journey of a 12-year-old girl. Go. And it just seemed like so clear. I was like, oh, it's going to be, I'll try, but I can't. I try, but I can't. And then the third chorus is, I'll try and I will. Those are the easy ones. The harder ones are the ones where you're like trying to comb through your own addled brain and your misery and your history. And those are the harder ones to really focus and find the distilled 100 proof thing that is the hook of it.
We're speaking with Jonatha Brooke, who is a singer-songwriter, got her start at Amherst College, coming back to Northampton to play at the Iron Horse, and has done now theater, incorporating some of maybe your earlier loves into what you're doing now. I know you have a relationship with Leonard Berkman and Joyce Berkman, who are legends in this area. Len Berkman is a dear friend of mine and the Smith College theater director. I know you've worked with his son, Zach, at People's Light Theater as well. But your play from about a decade ago, the one-woman play, My Mother Has Four Noses, chronicling your mother's descent into dementia and her subsequent death. Talk about bringing something that's so heavy into a semi-musical stage adaptation.
Thank you for asking. And I just saw Zach last night. He came to my show in Philly. And I can't wait to see Len in Northampton. But I think what for me was really the challenge and where I triumphed is that balance of funny and tragic. And knowing as a writer and as a liver of life that there's always this coexistence of darkness and light. And if you can get that balance right of like, oh my God, this terrible thing is happening, but oh my God, over here at the same time, this hysterically funny thing is coexisting in this same room, in this same scene with these same characters, to bring that to life was my just pride and joy. And my mother had both of those things. She had the darkness and the light. She was a character. She was incredibly funny. My job was to just tell this love story. It was this unconditional love story, and to make sure that the funny of her, okay, of course, everybody dies at the end, but there was just this boisterous fun that happened in the meantime. And so I really labored hard to find that balance and to make it not just like, oh no, a sad story about a mom who dies, just to make it be raucously fun at some time. And I think I did that.
I feel like you have to bring in a little bit of humor when your mom has been a clown.
Yeah, that's the other thing of like when I was caring for her, the crazy stuff that would happen every day. I was just like, all right, this is way bigger than a record. This is definitely theater. Like no one will believe the stuff that's happening unless I tell it on stage myself with songs weaving in and out, because it's just too crazy.
We're speaking with Jonatha Brooke, who will be performing at the Iron Horse, the newly reopened, refurbished, polished up Iron Horse, where she actually got her start, which is so fun that this has come full circle. Another kind of Western Mass connection is with Nora Guthrie and the Guthrie Center and the songs of Woody Guthrie. I know you're a huge Woody Guthrie fan, but you made a great album working with Steve Gadd and Christian McBride and others on putting music to Woody Guthrie lyrics. How did the relationship with the Guthrie family come about?
That was an awesome assignment, again, where we were trying to raise money for the Philadelphia Folk Song Society. And Nora, Woody's daughter, graciously opened the archives to, I think at the time it was me and John Gorka and Chris Smithers. And we were invited in to just find maybe a song or two, a couple of lyrical things among his writings, and bring a song to life to raise money. So we all met in Philly and we did this show, and I debuted this first song that I'd written called All You Gotta Do Is Touch Me. And it was a big success, and Nora and I kind of fell in love. We were like, wow, I need to make a whole record of this, of your dad's work. I'm kind of in love with your dad as well. And she said, go for it, because it had mostly been men perusing the archives, and I thought that there needed to be a female voice in there that amplified some of his more sensitive, gorgeous poetry and his love songs. So that's what I did, and I'm just so proud of that record. It's really beautiful.
It is a beautiful record.
It is.
You mentioned teaching classes, and I know that you taught, in addition to having the kitchen sessions through the beginning of the pandemic, taught classes through that as well. Have those classes changed since the pandemic in the way that you approach them?
It was so hard teaching over Zoom for me, because everything I do is very physical, and I'm kind of rooted in my body. I was a dancer before I was a singer. So to try to convey all of the energy through a flat screen was really, really rough. And I find now that we're back in rooms with real people, teaching in person, I am more hyper than ever. I'm just so happy to be alive in a body in a room with life coming back at me, and not just like a green light on a laptop.
Well, we're excited to have you back in human form in a room this weekend, this Saturday, with Jonatha Brooke's return to the Iron Horse. Strong Western Mass connection, so we believe you to be one of our own. We'll call you local hero, Jonatha Brooke.
But Jonatha made the same.
Oh, that's wicked sweet. Thanks.
You even said wicked, which, you're from Boston, just like us. So
I know, she made the same journey that we made, because we are the two of us are also from the Boston area and then came out here. So yeah, it's just welcome home, Jonatha Brooke. Go see her.
I love it that you're you're in the work, you're in the biz. So it's so lovely to talk to you.
Yay. I'm Khalees Smith.
I'm Monty Belmonte. We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.